Ever get the feeling like everyone's got an opinion on like what you should be doing with your life, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Been
Like
there.
maybe your family's got a path all laid out for you, or it just feels like society's kind of nudging you in this one very specific direction.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's kind of what we're diving into today on the deep dive. It's
Okay.
it's all about expectations and finding your own strengths, and we're going to be looking at it through this really fascinating lens.
Right.
An ancient story, the story of Draupadi from the Mahabharata, but we're bringing it right into like present day,
Yeah.
modern life stuff. We've got this this great blog post that just came out called "Are You the Draupadi of Your Family?" Dropped March 11th, 2025, so really recent.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to use that to kind of guide our deep dive today and really pull out those kind of timeless lessons about navigating life's pressures and figuring out who you are and where your own strength lies.
I think it's so interesting how these stories from like way back when, it can still be so relevant to us now.
Yeah, totally.
And this blog post does a really fantastic job of that, like taking Draupadi's story, which is pretty extraordinary, and then showing how it connects to those like everyday pressures that we all face.
Yeah.
Makes you think, about how some of these human experiences, they just keep repeating themselves throughout history.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so one of the first things that really stood out to me in the blog was this idea of the weight of expectations.
Okay.
It talks about how Draupadi's birth was, it wasn't really celebrated for her own sake, but more like as a way for her father to achieve his own ambitions. Like she was born into a role almost.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Does that resonate with you at all?
Absolutely. I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
And the blog brings up this really interesting question.
Okay.
It asks, are we too placing the burden of our unfulfilled dreams on the younger generation?
Oh.
And it really makes you stop and think, right? Like how often are we kind of subtly pushing the people around us, especially younger people, towards paths that we think are best for them?
Right.
Maybe without even realizing that we're doing it or without fully considering what they actually want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like it's built into some cultures, right?
Definitely.
Like this pressure to follow in the family's footsteps, to get those, those top grades, go to the best schools, have that successful career. And the blog talks about how society sets up these benchmarks. And sometimes that can overshadow people figuring out their own talents and what really makes them tick. Have you ever felt that kind of pressure, like from the outside, shaping your choices?
Oh, for sure. I think we all have to some extent.
Yeah.
It's hard to escape those expectations completely,
Yeah.
But what's interesting is how this can really affect someone's sense of self. If you're always focused on meeting other people's expectations,
Yeah.
you might not have the space to develop your own internal compass.
Right.
That sense of,
Yeah.
this is who I am, this is what matters to me.
Yeah.
So the blog's focus on nurturing individual identity, I think it's so important.
Yeah.
It's about giving yourself and others the freedom to figure out who you are without all that external noise.
Absolutely. Okay, so then the blog shifts gears a bit, and it starts talking about how Draupadi's early life was really all about preparing her for marriage.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it kind of paints this picture of her being, prepped for the marriage market where the main goal was to make a strong alliance.
Like a strategic partnership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a totally different world back then. But do you think there are any parallels to that in modern times?
I think there are definitely some echoes of that. Yeah.
Really?
It might not be about forming political alliances in the same way.
Right.
But the blog makes a good point about how societal norms can still put a lot of emphasis on marriage, especially for women.
Yeah.
There's often this pressure. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's more obvious to prioritize getting married and having kids.
Right.
Maybe even before exploring other ambitions.
Yeah. It's like that unspoken checklist again, isn't it?
It is.
Get your career, and then boom, the expectation to get married is right there.
Exactly.
And the blog throws out this really thought-provoking question. It says, what if we encouraged individuals, regardless of gender, to explore their skills, build their confidence, and define their self-worth beyond those traditional milestones?
I love that.
It's like it makes you reevaluate what we as a society really value and what we're encouraging in the people around us.
It really does. And it brings up this important point about where our sense of self-worth comes from.
Yeah.
If we're basing our worth on external things like our relationship status or what other people think of us, that's a really shaky foundation. Yeah. But Draupadi's story at least how the blog interprets it, shows how important it is to cultivate inner strength and recognize your own inherent value.
Yeah.
Like you are worthy, regardless of those external markers. It's about building that strong internal core.
Now, when you think of Draupadi, one of the most powerful images that comes to mind is her resilience in the face of some serious hardship.
Oh, absolutely.
The blog really emphasizes her unwavering resilience when she had to deal with public humiliation and betrayal.
Yeah.
Experiences that would crush a lot of people.
For sure.
But she came through it.
It's incredible, isn't it? And
Yeah.
the blog does a great job of reframing her suffering.
Okay.
It doesn't present her as just a victim, but as someone with incredible inner strength.
Right.
Like she emerges not defeated, but as a force to be reckoned with, as the blog says. Mm-hmm. And it's just that going through really tough times can actually forge a deep inner strength.
It's like what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly.
And the blog really leans into that idea. It's not just about surviving. It's about using those obstacles to grow and learn, even in the midst of tragedy.
Yeah.
And this, the blog argues, is directly relevant to the challenges we face today.
Absolutely. The blog actually speaks directly to you, the listener.
Yeah.
Reminding you that the tough things you go through, the personal setbacks, the struggles at work, the bigger societal issues we're all dealing with,
Right.
those aren't the end of the story.
Yeah.
As the blog puts it, they're the moments that evaluate and ultimately reveal the depths of our inner strength.
I love that.
It's about recognizing that adversity can show us what we're truly capable of.
So it's about that shift in perspective, right?
Exactly.
Instead of seeing challenges as just negative things that are trying to break us,
Yeah.
the blog encourages us to view them as opportunities to become stronger and learn more about ourselves.
It's about harnessing that resilience to not just bounce back, but to actually grow and evolve through those experiences.
Totally.
The blog makes a really compelling argument for seeing adversity not as a roadblock,
Yeah.
but as a chance for deep self-discovery and growth.
Yeah.
It's about finding that inner strength and using those difficult times to become even more who you are.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, exploring Draupadi's story through the lens of this blog post. Can we just quickly recap those key takeaways that the blog highlights for us, in our modern lives?
Sure. The blog boils it down to 3 main points.
Okay.
First, nurturing individual identity.
Yeah.
Letting ourselves and others be who they truly are without all those external pressures.
Number 1.
Number 2, expanding our horizons. Encouraging people to develop different skills and a strong sense of self-worth that goes beyond just those typical societal markers. And finally, number 3, harnessing resilience, using those challenges to grow and learn more about ourselves.
I like it. And in the blog's conclusion, it really brings it all back to us.
Right.
It asks, are we empowering those around us to be their fullest selves? Are we turning our trials into triumphs?
Powerful questions.
They really are. It's a great way to tie everything together, the lessons from Draupadi's story and how they apply to us today.
It's an invitation to look inward.
Yeah.
To think about how we might be holding ourselves or others back without even realizing it. And also to reflect on how we deal with those inevitable challenges that life throws our way.
So as you go about your day, take a moment to think about those times when you felt that weight of expectation or when you faced a really tough situation. How did you handle it? And what did you learn about your own strength, your own inner Draupadi?
I love that.
It's something to really think about. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
It's been great.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Take care. Bye.